The rain fell so hard that night it sounded like thousands of tiny hammers striking the rusted roof of the old garage. Water leaked through cracks in the ceiling and dripped onto the stained concrete floor. In the corner stood a man staring at a folded piece of paper lying on a workbench. His hands trembled as he read the words again and again, hoping they would somehow change. She was gone. Gone without a warning, without a goodbye worth remembering, and without any promise of returning. All she had left behind was a note, an empty closet, and exactly $41 sitting in a coffee mug beside the door. At that moment, everything he had spent years building seemed to collapse around him. The garage was drowning in debt, customers had stopped coming, bills were piling up, and now the woman he loved had walked away when he needed her most. But what neither of them knew was that the broken garage she abandoned would one day become the foundation of $1 million empire. Before we continue, if you believe kindness, hard work, and second chances can change a person's life, please take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share this story with someone who needs inspiration, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories like this. His name was Ethan Brooks, and for most of his life, he had never expected success to come easily. He grew up in a small town where opportunities were scarce and dreams often disappeared before they had a chance to grow. His father worked as a mechanic, and from an early age Ethan learned how to fix engines before he learned many of the lessons taught in school. While other children spent weekends playing games, Ethan spent his afternoons handing tools to his father, learning the language of machines and understanding the value of honest work. His hands were always covered in grease, but his heart was full of hope. Years later, after his father passed away, Ethan inherited a tiny garage on the edge of town. The building was old, neglected, and barely profitable, but it represented everything his father had worked for. Ethan promised himself he would turn it into something meaningful. Around that same time, he met Olivia. She was intelligent, ambitious, and beautiful. She dreamed of a life beyond the limits of their small town. Ethan loved her optimism, and she loved his determination. For a while, they seemed perfect together. They married, moved into a modest house, and planned a future filled with possibilities. But dreams have a way of testing people. The economy slowed. Customers stopped spending money. The garage began losing business month after month. Soon Ethan was working 16-hour days just to keep the doors open. Every morning he arrived before sunrise and every night he locked up long after dark. Despite all his effort, the numbers continued moving in the wrong direction. The bills became impossible to ignore. Creditors called daily. Equipment broke down. The roof leaked. Sometimes Ethan skipped meals to save money. Sometimes he pretended everything was fine so Olivia wouldn't worry. But she already knew. The stress began changing their marriage. Conversations became arguments. Hope turned into frustration. The future they had imagined seemed farther away each day. Then came the night that changed everything. After another exhausting day, Ethan returned home expecting to find Olivia waiting for him. Instead, the house felt strangely empty. The closet was half vacant. The photographs were gone. The silence felt heavy. On the kitchen table sat a note. She wrote that she couldn't continue living this way. She was tired of struggling. Tired of uncertainty. Tired of believing things would improve someday. She said she needed a different life. A better life. By the time Ethan finished reading, tears blurred the ink. He rushed outside, hoping to see her car. But she was already gone. The next morning he found the $41 she had left behind. $41. That was all he had. $41 between him and complete ruin. For several weeks, Ethan moved through life like a shadow. He slept inside the garage because he couldn't afford heating at home. He worked constantly because stopping meant thinking. Every evening he sat alone listening to rain hit the metal roof while wondering where everything had gone wrong. Many people would have quit. Many people would have sold the building and walked away. Ethan almost did. Then one afternoon something happened. An elderly customer named Walter arrived with an old pickup truck that barely ran. Walter had been coming to the garage for years. He noticed the sadness in Ethan's eyes. Instead of talking about repairs, he simply sat beside him. For nearly an hour, the two men shared coffee and silence. Before leaving, Walter placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. He reminded him that storms never last forever. He reminded him that character is built during difficult times, not easy ones. Most importantly, he reminded Ethan that losing someone doesn't mean losing yourself. Those words stayed with him. That night Ethan made a decision. If everything was already falling apart, then he had nothing left to fear. He would rebuild from the ground up. He would fight. He would make the garage succeed even if it took every ounce of strength he possessed. The next morning he arrived before dawn. He cleaned every corner of the building. He repaired old equipment himself. He painted faded walls. He created social media pages for the business. He offered mobile repair services. He worked harder than he ever had before. Slowly, things began changing. One customer became 3. 3 became 10. 10 became 50. Satisfied customers recommended him to friends. Friends recommended him to family. His reputation spread. People trusted Ethan because he treated every vehicle as if it belonged to someone he loved. Years passed. The little garage transformed into a respected repair center. Then Ethan noticed another opportunity. Many mechanics struggled to find affordable quality parts. Instead of ignoring the problem, he built relationships with suppliers. He started selling parts directly. What began as a small side business quickly expanded. Soon he was shipping parts across the state. Then across the country. The profits grew. The company hired employees. The old garage expanded into multiple buildings. Technology improved operations. Revenue increased dramatically. Investors became interested. Business magazines began telling his story. The man who once slept beside leaking walls was now running a company generating millions in annual sales. Yet despite the success, Ethan never forgot where he came from. He remembered every painful night. Every unpaid bill. Every moment of doubt. Most importantly, he remembered the feeling of being abandoned when life became difficult. Instead of becoming bitter, he became compassionate. He established scholarships for local students. He helped struggling mechanics start businesses. He donated equipment to vocational schools. His success became a tool for helping others. One afternoon, nearly 8 years after Olivia left, Ethan attended a business conference in a luxury hotel. The ballroom was crowded with entrepreneurs, investors, and executives. As he moved through the crowd, someone caught his attention. A familiar face. A face he hadn't seen in years. Olivia. For a moment, time seemed to stop. She looked older. Life had clearly not unfolded exactly as she had planned. The confidence she once carried so effortlessly seemed diminished. Their eyes met across the room. Recognition appeared instantly. Shock followed. Then something else. Regret. She slowly approached. Ethan felt his heart race, not from love but from memory. Memories of rainy nights. Memories of loneliness. Memories of $41 sitting in a coffee mug. She congratulated him on his success. She spoke about seeing his company featured in magazines and online articles. She admitted she never imagined he would achieve so much. As the conversation continued, Ethan learned that the life she had chosen after leaving wasn't the dream she expected. Relationships had failed. Careers had come and gone. The certainty she chased had turned out to be an illusion. For the first time in years, she looked vulnerable. And then she asked the question Ethan never expected. Could they start over? Could they try again? The room suddenly felt quieter. Not because anyone was listening, but because the answer mattered. Years earlier, Ethan would have said yes without hesitation. Years earlier, he would have done anything to have her back. But the man standing there was not the same man she left behind. Pain had changed him. Struggle had shaped him. Success had strengthened him. He looked at Olivia and realized something important. He no longer needed the person who abandoned him during his darkest hour. The greatest victory wasn't the company. It wasn't the money. It wasn't the recognition. The greatest victory was becoming someone capable of standing on his own. Ethan responded with kindness. There was no anger in his heart. No desire for revenge. No bitterness. He genuinely wished her happiness. But he also understood that some chapters are meant to end. Not because forgiveness is impossible, but because growth sometimes requires moving forward instead of backward. Olivia nodded slowly. Tears filled her eyes. Perhaps she finally understood what she had lost. Not a future millionaire. Not a successful entrepreneur. But a loyal man who had loved her when he had nothing. As she walked away, Ethan felt an unexpected sense of peace. The wound that had followed him for years finally closed. The story was complete. The chapter was over. And for the first time, he truly felt free. Before we reach the ending, I have a special request. Please comment below with one word that describes Ethan's journey: hope, strength, faith, or any word that touched your heart. We'd love to read every comment. A few months later, Ethan returned to the original garage. The building had been preserved exactly as it was years before. The same workbench remained. The same tools hung on the walls. Even the repaired roof reminded him of where it all began. He stood quietly and smiled. Not because he had become wealthy. Not because he had proven anyone wrong. But because he had survived. Because he had refused to surrender when life seemed impossible. Because the man who once had only $41 and a broken heart had discovered something far more valuable than money. He had discovered resilience. And resilience is a fortune nobody can take away. If this story touched your heart, inspired you, or reminded you never to give up during difficult times, please like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. Your support helps us continue sharing powerful stories that inspire millions around the world. Sometimes people leave when the road becomes difficult. Sometimes dreams appear broken beyond repair. Sometimes life strips away everything you thought you needed. But every now and then, those painful endings become the beginning of something extraordinary. And somewhere out there, a person who feels abandoned today may be standing at the edge of their greatest comeback tomorrow.